Ooh, hello and good morning, everybody. I just turned on the stream and I hit the camera at the same time, so it's kind of gone off center. I'm gonna just rearrange that a little bit so you guys can see okay. Thank you all for joining. Really appreciate you being here. Today, we're going to be doing this scene here of Bhutan. I actually found this photo on Pixabay or on one of the free reference photo websites. I thought it was pretty amazing. Just the subtle light that we've got crossing over the building and these amazing mountains that just point towards the skies. So I thought this was kind of quite interesting. And in terms of, I remember growing up and my grandma, she would have some of these like Chinese paintings, ink paintings that had similar subject matter. And I thought, I'm going to try to give this a go. I haven't painted a scene like this before. And I think what we can do is go through and use some wet watercolor techniques along with some sort of sharper brush strokes in order to get in these buildings as well. So if it's your first time here, my name's Darren, and I'm an artist in Melbourne, Victoria, and I basically do a whole bunch of these tutorials online. I do them twice a week these days. Um, and I go through my process at the same time. So if you're watching and you're in the and you've got access to the chats, leave a message. I'd love to hear where you're watching from and whether you've been along before, how you're doing, and I do hope you've all had a really good New Year's. Um, I had a pretty quiet one actually here in Melbourne. Didn't do all too much, but I may go out later today. I tend to try to avoid the big crowds. So having a look and just seeing if there's any questions, what have you. But I'm going to go ahead and get started in just a moment. So in terms of some of the materials that you're going to need today, I'll go through just a few bits and pieces. So I have a few of these brushes here. These are some watercolor mop brushes. Now this one I think is going to be large enough. I do also have a larger mop brush like this here. Okay, so these two I think should be good for getting in almost all of the softer sort of details in the scene. And the larger washes as well. I think that's going to be really important. And I'm also going to be using some smaller brushes. So perhaps this number 8 round brush. And I've got a few other sort of specialty brushes. A flat edge brush, kind of like this. This brush here is a kind of what do you call it? It's a fan brush. I've also got a little rigger brush, and these are really great for getting in the sides of trees, little branches, and things like that. So uh, I'm going to go ahead and start in just a moment. I just want to make sure that I've got everything set up okay before we begin. Um, Another thing to keep in mind is that the reference photos are available in the chat. So if you have a quick look in the chats, I've listed a little link there. I've added a little link there, and that's going to help you to have the full reference photo. So it's all linked up in there. I've also attached a stencil. So I know some of you might have wanted to trace in the past, or you might just want a more simple photograph that you can use, a reference that you can use. So that's also available in the discussion. How you doing, Tracy? Welcome to the stream, and thank you for joining. And whereabouts are you watching from? I'm just gonna have a quick look, make sure everything's set up on the stream okay. Let me know if you can hear me all right as well. Um, we'll go ahead and get started. I'm just trying to. There's some weird sort of spammy kind of stuff that's coming up in the comments, so I'm just gonna go ahead and remove some of this stuff. I do have this issue from time to time. Some sort of spammy kind of comments that are coming up, but and to get rid of them pretty early on. And see quite a few of you watching along. There's also Jerry Ann 𝗣𝗓𝗄𝗧𝗥𝗘𝗢𝗡. watching too. Thank you for joining, Jerry Ann. I know I sort of post this on Facebook and then also have a few more viewers on YouTube as well. And if you like the video and you think you could, if you know anyone else they'll be interested, do share this video, share it and like it. That would actually help me out a lot. So it just helps it get promoted out a bit more, so we can have a few more viewers on the stream. So I'm going to give you guys time to sort of trickle in a little bit. It's already 10:30, but again, make sure you've got that reference photo up on the side of the screen. For those of you watching along, I tend to suggest having half of the reference photo up on the screen. Dividing your screen into halves, and then putting your reference photo on one side, and then having the actual video on the other side. So that's going to help out. So bear with me, guys. I'm just gonna remove some of this weird spammy sort of stuff that's coming up. Okay, I think that's all good. We've also got Grace von Matt from Sparwood, BC. Thank you for joining, Grace. Paint with Myrtle, good to see you again, and Happy New Year to you and for everyone as well. I hope this year is going to be a little bit easier for everyone. It's been a very interesting year for sure, and I'm sure we're good. So I'm just again, I just want to make sure that I've got everything all sorted. So bear with me, guys. I'll let you all get set up and ready to go first. This is a bit of an experimental landscape. I think it's going to be quite interesting. We'll try some wet on dry sort of techniques. Okay, I'm just going to share it. Make sure that everything's working on the computer. Won't be too much longer. But yeah, if you're here, let me know. And especially if it's your first time as well. The way this works is if you do have questions during the stream, just drop a message in the chats, and that's going to help, especially because I can answer your questions here, and there's no such thing as a silly question. So just drop a question if you do need any help during the chats. And we've got a few more people starting to come in as well. We've got Wanapa from Thailand. Good to see you again, Wanapa. Thank you for joining. And you've been here for the past few, so great to see you again. Also got Sui. How you doing, Sui? Haven't seen you for a bit. I think it probably is a bit of an awkward time for you, but thank you for popping in. Happy New Year, and I hope you're having a great day. We've got Lena Darrell also here. Good to see you, and also Lucia. How you doing, Lucia? Thank you for joining. Just trying to give me one moment. I'm just checking something on the computer so it doesn't conk out. Okay, excellent. Righto, guys, I think we're gonna kick off, and we've also. Oh, I'll just read out a few more chats. There's a few more chats going on in the other one as well. We've got Isabella. How you doing, Isabella Barada, and also Sue Wallace from North Yorkshire. Um, first time catching it live. I've just got a lot of weird spam coming up, guys, on the chat. So this is taking me a little bit of time. I just want to remove all these people. Um, sometimes this sort of happens where you get just these weird, this sort of annoying spam that comes up. So just make sure you don't click on any links unless I've posted them. That's the general rule of thumb, I think, on the internet. Just gotta be careful what you click on. But I have removed all those causing me a bit of a bit of a headache this morning. But we will soldier on. We'll continue on. Okay. Um, Righto. So I have the reference photo up here as well. And thank you for joining, Sue. I know it's bedtime for you, and I think the sleep is more important. So I'll catch you next time. It's going to be available afterwards as well. Righto. So I've got that reference picture up, and one of the things that I want to do first, and I've got a larger sort of pencil with a larger bit of lead in there, so hopefully that's going to help you see better. One of the things I think I might do is actually zoom into the photo just a little bit more. I'm thinking it's quite, I mean, the reference photo is pretty large, so I'm thinking if I can actually enlarge these buildings just slightly, it's gonna be a bit easier for you. Now, the buildings are tricky because what we've got is essentially just a little slither of light coming up over on the left sides of the tops and perhaps the right side of the buildings. So it's gonna be an interesting one. I move thing. We'll kick off, minimize a few little windows here as well. There's a few more people that are starting to trickle in. There's Aranita Karakosta. Thank you for joining from Greece. And there's also Carrie Anderson. Thanks for joining, and Happy New Year to you as well. This is gonna be fun, and look, it's also one of the things I really recommend you guys to do is try new subjects. Now, it's always a bit of a you get a bit anxious sometimes. You try something that you haven't done before, something completely different, and in this case, it's a different scene. I'm going to show you also a few little other scenes that I have potentially done in the past. I don't have all of them out at the moment. Um, but I'll show you a little bit of what I've done in the past. I know some of you are new, so you're probably not aware 100% of what my style is like. I do a bunch of paintings, kind of like this sort of line and wash style paintings. And I also have full paintings as well. I haven't got them here in the actual scene, sort of in the cupboard, but here's a few ones that I've done for previous lives. I work in a loose kind of style. Lately, I've actually been working more on portraiture, and I'm sort of putting together a little um, portraiture class coming up. So here are a few little portraits that I've done recently. So I know that's one of the things you guys have requested from me to do, perhaps like a live portraiture class, and I will do that potentially next week. So I'll put a reference photo up and go through that. But I just wanted to show you a little bit of what I'm working on these days, and I do like to get feedback from you guys. And I know you've all been asking to do portraits. You want to learn a bit more, so it's a tricky sort of one, but I'll go through it with you all in the coming. I'll do a free class on that in the next week or so. Alrighty. But I just wanted to show you a little bit of my work. I work on all different types of subjects. I really recommend doing it, working on different subjects, because you're just gonna get a lot more experience in painting different shapes and what have you if you sort of branch out a little bit and try something new. It's not always going to work out the first time. In fact, it rarely will. But we will continue on, and we'll get through it, and you'll get better. So enough babbling from me. I think I really have been talking a bit too much, but I wanted to show, especially for some of you who are new here, I wanted to show you a little bit of what I've been doing and my style, just so that you know what to expect. Okay, the landscape wise as well. I love working wet into wet like this and getting in little details, you know, with some of these line and wash type like drawings and paintings as well. So um, definitely, definitely try different things, and sometimes they work out, sometimes they don't. So reference picture up, and what we'll do firstly is probably the most tricky sort of, not the so tricky sort of part, probably the easiest part. Um, and we're going to just put in roughly where the bottom of the buildings come in. Okay, I'm going to divide this up into basically the large mountain, um, okay, which comes down. If we look at the paper and the reference, the mountain comes down about right of the center, about here. So you can put in a little mark like that, okay? And then we know that it essentially it just comes down and goes all the way through. The great thing about these mountains and natural landscapes is that they come in all different shapes and sizes. So if you don't follow the contour of this particular reference 100%, it's still going to be fine. So this is all I'm doing. I'm just starting off putting in a little bit of this, the side of this mountain, okay? Down the middle here of the mountain, there is a kind of a large tree or something, or it's a clump of trees really just sticking out the side of that mountain like that. So I'm gonna draw that in a little like that, okay? And then we've got kind of these little soft mountains here in the background. You can really only see a bit of the sky here in the corner. We'll be quite faithful to the reference, and I'll bring that across like this so that we've got little indication of the sky here. Then we've got some distant mountains. Then we've got some of these closer mountains, which kind of just composed of some trees and what have you. And underneath, this is where we can get a little bit more detailed as well. Underneath, you'll notice that there are some rocks coming out the um, back of this tree shape, and that comes down like this. But you're taking a lot of this stuff with a grain of salt in terms of the exact formations and what have you. You're just trying to get in the side of this mountain. Okay. Um, you got a line just running down the side, that's fine. Okay. There's a lot of these formations. You can see them um, certainly coming in and many different angles. You've even got a bit that just actually comes down, this larger kind of rock, and it's just darkness in there. And then you've got some rocks that just recede off kind of into the back like that. But a lot of this stuff here is actually just trees here in the background, it's running off into the distance like that. Now, what I'm going to do is try to again work out this area of the mountains, and we've got like on top of this tree. One thing we can see is the kind of a structure. It's the little. I think this is a temple, guys. Bhutan's a very interesting place. I hear it's quite tricky to get to as well. So I'm going to just draw in a bit of the base of it, and this this building just peeks out from behind the mountains. So I'm just going to draw a little section of it like this. Okay, just draw a rectangle for the base, and a little bit of the side, kind of 3D looking object like that. Okay, I'm going to go put in a little bit of this rooftop as well. Okay. it's almost like a triangle. I'll just erase this bit on a little tangent there. Draw in a little triangle over the top. That should do the trick. Okay, this one's more going to be in darkness. It's going to be tricky to see that one. We've got on top another sort of structure like this. Another triangle just coming up. Okay. These triangles are really important because they signify a man-made object, okay, the buildings, because we're going to have a lot of, I guess, softer shapes and shapes with less defined edges. And so the buildings really need to be detailed a little more, I'd say, so that they appear and they come through all that the rest of the shrubs and trees and things like that. Okay, so again, there's lots of detail. There's so much detail in here, but I'm just going to simplify that down. You know, there's even details inside the buildings, which I won't really detail all too much. But in here, we're going to leave a bit of there's a bit of the rooftop of this structure and little ornamental bits and pieces sticking off the top like that. Okay. That. Okay, so that's kind of one over there, kind of in the background. We're going to work on some of these other ones here now in the foreground. And again, I've just enlarged that building a little bit because I think in the reference photo it just looks a little small. So perhaps this scene, it's almost slightly maybe like a slightly zoomed in version. So over this side, I'm just gonna start getting in a little edge of this mountain or what like this, and it's like a two-fold. There's one side of it that sort of sticks out here, then another side of it which actually comes in just beyond, just before this group of trees. So this group of trees here, there's a bit of darkness in here, just in there, okay, and that comes down and forms a bit of the edge here. A lot of this stuff, the textures and what have you, we're going to be able to get in with watercolors later. Start some of these like trees, they're highlighted trees, you can see them, which just are lighter sections. These kind of downward sort of strokes here as well. Another bit of a tree here growing down the side of that building in front of the cliff. That okay, good. Let's have a look. Let's place these buildings now. I'm going to zoom in a little bit so I can see what is actually going on in here. Righto, I think I will actually we'll place in the buildings mainly in like a large sort of shape. Go with like a squarish shape like this to begin first, just to make it a little less intimidating. That the cliff hanging off like that. And we've got just a rectangle shape like this. Okay, and then on top there's going to be like another kind of cube shape on top like that. A bit more here. Okay, that's a bit of a structure for this other one. Okay, because the main thing is I want to just have enough room, make sure I got enough room to place everything in here. Here, just another part of this temple. Hope you guys can see okay. Can be tricky drawing in pencil, but as we go through, I get a bit more confident with knowing where all the objects and pieces are. I'll shade in a little darker so you guys can see, just see a bit closer as to what I'm doing. So here you should be able to see the side of the building here. A lot of the times when you're doing a watercolor painting, you're gonna have to pick and choose how much detail you put in here because there's way too much detail in here for a painting like this. So I think it's really important to practice your drawing and composition skills and doing stuff like this and you know understanding how I do it um, as well is going to help you and to do the same when you're you know when you have a reference picture of your own and you're trying to translate it over. Okay, one of the things I'm doing here is that I know that there's like a rooftop in that section, and there's a couple of windows here. So this is what I'm doing. I'm just trying to get in some details for that window, those windows, and then the side of this building a little more as well. Underneath this rooftop, it's a little darker like this. I mean, we can even get in a bit of sunlight or something coming across the building like that. And even on the rooftop, you'll see that there is a bit of sunlight cutting across the rooftop there. So we may even leave that entire rooftop um, lighter. In fact, emphasize that feeling of light. Okay. I'm trying my best to create some sharper uh, edges here for the roofs. Okay, let's have a look at this one. The roof kind of comes in like this. Yeah, yeah, cool, like that. It comes down here. You notice I draw these kind of dots. The dots help. It's kind of like playing connect the dots, really. I just go through and draw the little, they're kind of like guidelines. I don't have to guess as much. Okay, that's part of the roof now. Need to just draw in a base of the roof here, running across this. Okay, bit of the rooftop, darker underneath here, and then we've got top of the roof, which just joins up these two bits, yeah, something like that. Okay, so we've got a bit of that roof in here now for that one. That one's a bit more defined. Um, there's a lot of, really a lot of stuff in the back of that section. Yeah, but we'll work on the big one just a moment. Firstly, why not put in a few windows here while I'm here? Just a few little windows like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's actually 4 in there, but I'm in 5. Um, Notice a little more detail here as well. There's a kind of a, I don't know, like a side house here, which I'll just etch in like that. Something there, like a box. It's just a box on its side. Essentially, this is the base of the building. Yeah, running through, and there's like a kind of a, I don't know, like a courtyard or something, eh? Courtyard running through here. That would be interesting to do. Darkness at the base of the courtyard, like here, and then the top of this wall will be illuminated a little because of the light kind of bouncing off it. Base of this building, that's a little bit of the base. Really just dark in there. A lot of darkness. Oh, what's this? Something waving in the wind. Like that. Okay. I think that's a good enough detail for that section. Now I'm going to work on these buildings. Now there's a building that cuts through the roof roughly here. Okay. Goes across. I'm going to just, again, just start estimating things and drawing the little bits on. Another building. Ooh. Zoom in a little bit. if you have your photograph up there, make sure you use that zoom function. Scroll into the and look a little bit closer into the photograph. It's going to help. It's going to help a great deal to put in all the details. Janet says, "I love the reference. Amazing references." Um, a few more chats with Kate as well. Thank you for joining, Kate. Barbary and Ria Allen from Minnesota. Thank you for joining. Also, Deborah Jones from Oklahoma. Angie Norheim's here again, and George Paula Bustos from Alabama. Thank you all for being here. If you have any questions at the moment, do let me know. This is turning out to be more of a drawing lesson here, and it's tricky, but I think I think it's something that's gonna really help with your composition skills to understand how to simplify things down and I guess come up with a painting that's different from the reference, that's unique from the reference. A really tricky thing to certainly to do. So let me have a look. What else do we have in here? I think we're all caught up with the comments. I actually haven't checked on YouTube yet. We've got Ellen here. How you doing, Ellen? And Happy New Year. Hope you're having a great one and not too hungover. And Julie Williams from New South Wales, Australia. Sounds fantastic. All good. So, guys, I'm going to continue on, but I will check the chats. You need any additional help or some or what have you, I will go through that. We've also got Connie Allen from New South Wales, Australia. Thanks for joining, Connie. I know. Close off a few of these windows. I've got too many things open. Sometimes I lose the reference photo. There's a few watching on YouTube. If you're on YouTube, let me know, especially if you're new here as well. Also got Don. Good to see you, Don. And Happy New Year as well from Don's from Little Rock, Kansas. And I'm late joining. That's okay. We're still doing the drawing, Don, and it's proving to be it's a little tricky, but getting there. So back to this. Now we've got there's really a lot of stuff in here, but if we just simplify it down and put in the rooftop like that, okay, we're going to look at where the this building directly behind this building sort of intersects with it. So it's about here, that rooftop like that. I can finish off that building underneath that. Okay. There, it's just like like that. Roof sluds up like that. Oops, goes left here, to the right. Sorry, forgetting my directions now. And this is the kind of edge, actually, of the this building. It's down like this. There is some kind of wall connected to this side of this building. We'll also start putting in some extra detail. This is another tiny little shack or little hut or something next door. And there's some dark bits under here as well. But doesn't matter all too much what's in there, but just some like kind of sharper shapes I think in there is helpful. Okay, something like that. let's go ahead and keep working on this one. Roof, and got this one coming in roughly like this as well. Building out the back there, there. Up, forming this triangular shape. This there, triangular shape like that. Okay. Base of this building needs to come down, disappear back to that. The buildings are so important to get them to connect together. Get them to connect together. They're going to look a lot more interesting than if we just yeah, it's just going to look more cohesive. I find that just getting them to overlap a little bit like this, and it is, you know, that effect is already present in this photo. So we got that side of that is coming in like this. What else do we have in here? Just right. Now there's a kind of top part of this building here, tricky. Square, just a square shape. I had misplaced it before. I put it a little too far down. So I'm going to go in and just redo this little more here. Again, just kind of looking boundaries, seeing that we've got enough space through here as well. This wall we were kind of drawing in, it was coming in like sort of like this, wasn't it? That. Then there's trees and shrubs kind of growing into that wall, growing up like that, even behind that little hut here as well. So many little bits and pieces in here. We simplify them down. Right. Now, going through and doing this building as well. So it's just a rectangle. Edge of that building. That. Yeah. So I've actually done it a little bit too high. It should actually be the top of that building should be in line with that one, but it doesn't matter. It could be now that we're looking at it from a different angle, closer up and further down. So I think this is fine. We'll just continue on. Base, put the base here and the base of the other side there. Okay, rooftop, and just a kind of almost like a triangular type shape, and it flattens off here, down here, and then comes down to the back here like that. There, looking good. And kind of this repeating structure, almost like just a box and a box on top. Then again, the rooftop structure like this, triangular, almost like a triangular like shape like this. Okay, and another one on top. This probably do this a bit more accurately than I have as well. But I think that's going to do the trick. Another thing I might do is just even it out a little bit. I do feel that it's just still a teeny bit wonky if I have this mid part of the building like here. Have this kind of come down a bit further. Nicer. Here, here, that. Okay. This is all kind of roof as well, underneath. Roof of another building. Amazing. How detailed this is actually. I always get myself into trouble by picking references that are trickier than they actually look. This is the edge of a cliff in the background here. And I'm going to just draw that in. That there. Good. And then here we've got, again, just connect up the side of this building. Bring that further down like this. Here. We've got more buildings in the background like this. Just a rooftop. Slither of a rooftop and a bit of ornamental bits and pieces on the back. Another slither of a rooftop here as well. Window and the base of the building roughly like around there. Okay. Right. Notice it doesn't have to be perfect at all. Okay. And flesh out the details as we work on this paints. I always like a good challenge when it comes to references. And this one certainly is a very challenging subject for all of us. You'll notice there's a lot of details in the buildings as well. And, I've added some in for some of them, but it's not necessary really to add them all in at this stage because we're just working in with the pencil. Later, when we go in with the watercolors, we can actually use the watercolors to put in a lot of that detail. The shadows on this building are going to make a really big difference. Just little shadows that are coming off the side and forming um, bits of dark on the buildings. This is going to be super important for later. I haven't exactly worked out the full shadow pattern just yet, but I'm trying to just experiment and see how I want to do this. We can get it kind of similar as the reference photo. We can simplify it down a little bit, but it's going to be important, just this section here where the building is, this large bit of the building is going to cast a shadow across. So I might actually simplify it down a lot and just get the shadow of this building itself. Yeah. So what I'm doing here is also for your benefit to just outline. I'm just outlining some of the details in here a little further so you can see. Hopefully a bit better in pencil. I'm going quite dark, going fairly dark in here to show you some of the outlines of the buildings and what have you too. Okay, some of the bottom parts of the roof, rooftops and things like that as well. Okay, might also want to just darken this one now that I'm fairly certain of the location of it. There's enough room there for it. I don't have to shift anything around like that. And it's actually looks like a staircase or something. A lot of darkness behind there. We'll figure it out. We'll figure it out as we go. Little more of the character of the cliff, this mountain. Okay, a little bit more character. And get this one run up sharper like that. Right? Righto. This was here, the kind of the tree that I had drawn in that was kind of cutting in front of everything, goes down into the cliff. You have a quick look where it actually finishes off. Or a bit of a cliff here. Where is it? I lost that edge. Oh, here it is. That's the cliff. And then in here it's like fairly dark. That's just a bit of darkness in there. But around that we've got these trees that run up. And you can see even some of the trunks, how they just grow up on the side of the mountain. Isn't that amazing? Life sort of proliferates itself in most awkward positions. Go here. Okay, there's a little tree. I wanted to make sure this one it was in more, obviously. And here we are just about done drawing, guys. I do spend. I'm gonna make sure I spend more time on the drawing so that the scene looks like what it should. Generally speaking, having a good drawing makes a world of difference. Really makes a world of difference later. And the way that you do the trees as well, just having little clumps that run down the side of the cliffs, and if you start getting confused at what you're drawing, make sure you zoom in a little bit to that reference, and then start picking out a few little bits and pieces. What I also like is that this cliff has these kind of downward, you see these downward striations in the rock, and I think could be caused by um, just the layering of the rock, structure of the rock, or it could be just maybe the rain sort of running down the side of it and creating. But I think that's a really beautiful effect. The verticals, you know what I'm talking about? These black sort of stripes and things, striations running down the rock. It really gives it character. I'm just putting a few in like that to remind me to do it later. Okay, better remember that a lot of this stuff here on the actual cliff starts tending towards abstract. Little light here as well. Remember to put on little elements of light. Okay, and the way I do that as well is these trees here. That's why I'm really making an effort to draw out the outlines of some of these trees and what have you, because that's my way of preserving some of this light for later. So some of this is going to be left warmer color in there. Now work on this side of the cliff a bit more, just new on, and I think that should be okay, guys. I don't want to overdo it. We can do the same thing here, just getting a few little striations and rock and that kind of thing. But I'll show you a really cool method and that will be, I think that's going to be the most fun bit actually, just getting in the textures running through here. But certainly make sure that you've got enough of an outline of these buildings before you start in the painting, because you can't lose that. You can't lose the outline of that section that's going to indicate the temples. Okay, so notice I'm going through as well, just trying to, again, detail that further, darken a bit more. Once you're confident with where that shape is and you know it's, in the position that you're happy with, just leave it. I think I'll leave that for now. I'll check the chats as well and see how we are doing. Let me know. How are you finding this at the moment? Are you going okay with the drawing? We've also got Philip here from Melbourne. Second class, enjoyed the Myanmar monk class. Good to put brush to paper. Thanks, Philip. But yeah, that last one was challenging. Having just all those figures, monks in different, different postures and things like that. I think that was, yeah, that was tricky, but good fun. I'm going to be doing another more portrait style class in the next week or so. I think that will be good fun. Now, let's. How are we all doing with the drawing? Um, let me know. Let me know in the chats. Okay. But I'd say, guys, just focus more on the buildings and the positioning of the light sections on the the cliff. Okay, so don't worry too much about drawing in all the striations and things in the cliff. We can do all that stuff later on. Okay, but I think it's good to begin with a nice solid drawing, so we know where to go in, where to cut around, especially with the buildings. Okie dokie. I'm gonna continue on and start with some of the colors that I've got. Here's my palette, by the way. I haven't cleaned it, but I think we're going to be fine. This is actually going to create more interesting textures and things. Let me get the... You guys should be able to see pretty much the entire palette. I'm going to brought the camera up further today, very high up, so that you can see everything in the scene. This is a quarter sheet, so it's a larger than the paper I usually work with, which is A4. Carol King is here. I just saw your message, Carol from Tennessee. Look forward to your portrait class, especially since it's free. Yeah, it's what I'll do for the portrait class, I think, is with the drawing, I will do the drawing beforehand, but I will upload the reference picture and a tracing template if you guys want to trace that. Because the drawing often takes a really long, really long time, and just to speed things up, I can give you also a few little tips on drawing. There's a few different techniques that you can use. You can use grids. You can draw freehand. You can trace that reference picture in. There's really a few different ways, but I want to focus more on the actual painting component. But we'll talk a bit about the structures of the face, how to place different features on a person as well. So I think we are all good to go, everyone. I'll give you just a moment if you have any questions or what have you. I'm going to get some water. It's been pretty hot over in Melbourne for the past few days. Hot as in, 35 degrees Celsius and above. Used to be in Perth, and a hot day would be something like 44, maybe 43, 44 degrees Celsius. I think they've had a big heat wave recently, and it's crazy how it can get that hot. Okay. Seeming to be up to date with all the chats. Sure I've covered off. Oops. No, that's weird. I don't seem to see the video. I'm sure you guys are okay. Video and everything like that. I just can't seem to see it on my side of the screen, so I hope it's okay. I mean, it looks like it's streaming okay, but yeah, if you're having any troubles stream, do let me know. It seems to be paused on one of the screens, but it should be good. Got Yves. Yves, happy New Year to you as well, and hope you had a great Christmas. You get up to much? I haven't seen you for a little bit, so thank you for joining. And must be geez, what time is it for you? Around the same time, must be like morning, 10 or 11 o'clock. Thank you so much for joining. One of us says watching and following your hand. Not good at English, but already drawing finished. Okay, good, awesome. Guys, I'm going to continue to the next stage, and I'm going to spend a little bit of time on the palette and to mix up some warm colors. I always recommend doing the really warm stuff first because you can get into some trouble if you mix up your blues and your greens before you put on your yellows and oranges and things like that, because it can just turn the rest of that into green. So I always like to put on the what is it called? The really warm colors first. These are some new brushes that I got. These Meaden brushes. They're kind of they are watercolor mop brushes. I'll do a little review of them at some stage, but so far I've been really liking them. Hold a nice point. All good. Don says all good. I'm on YouTube. Fantastic. Yeah, for those of you who don't know as well, I do have a YouTube channel. You can just search it up, Watercolor Mentor. Um, I know some of you watch on Facebook too. It's the same thing, but I do upload a few extras up on YouTube, so I want to check it out. Right. I'm going to continue on, guys. I think everyone's pretty much finished with the drawing, and there's no particular questions about that. So let's get going. Now, the top of the buildings, you notice they're very even the trees, the shrubs and stuff like that. They're kind of like a yellowish green there, but on top of the buildings here, it's like yellowy gold. I've got a color called quinacridone burnt orange, and I'm gonna mix that a little bit with some Hansa yellow here in the corner, and let's just have a little play around. Let's pop a bit in here. Let's put a bit on top of the buildings. Okay, a bit more of that yellow actually. Keep it fairly light. Okay, I think that's nice. Because the quinacridones have a beautiful golden sort of color that you're not able to really replicate. I've not found something that can create that lovely golden color as nicely as the quinacridone one. So that's what I'm trying to just mix a bit of that in there. If you got quinacridone yellow, I think that's probably your best shot. I don't personally have that myself though. Lift off a bit of that. Let's go. Let's some more here. Okay, probably lighter is better. There, right. And I'm focusing a lot on the actual rooftops to begin with. A bit like that. Anytime you see like a rooftop or something like that, just drop in a bit of that yellow. She goes all across here, here. Even on this side of the building, actually, it's quite very light. And lift off a bit of color as well if you think much. Good, good. Down here, we've missed out a bit at the bottom. We don't have to be too pedantic as to, going over the bottom parts of the buildings and stuff like that. Well, just drop that color in like that. Just any sort of golden bit of roof that you want to imply in there. A bit more yellow. Okay? Should have gone with some more yellow. This will be orangey yellow. Sometimes depending on the time of the day as well. Um, okay. So we're gonna I've got a bit of white. This is buff titanium. I'm just gonna try to put in a bit here, side of this building. Like that. Move that around a little. And the aim here is to try to get rid of some of that white of the paper. Encourage the buildings to blend a little bit better. Well, it's just a bit of buff titanium. Very light wash, by the way. Try to connect these buildings up a little. Perhaps button here. We'll leave that. We'll leave that there. I'd like to use buff titanium actually for portraits. Let's put in a bit here. the sides of these buildings there. Mix in a bit of yellow all there. Down. Um, Another thing you can do is also just use a bit of neutral tint. Dull it down a bit and just put a light wash over the edges of the white. That you can leave little white highlights as well. Or if you want, you can even leave just the white of the buildings. It's not a huge deal. And just as more stylistic thing, I just want to add in some more, yeah, just a bit of different color in there. Some more blues. Let's drop in some more blue, bits of bluish color in here. Perhaps you have some purple, which makes a great little shadow color as well. Soften this down a bit. Just soften that building down here. But you know, for actually the real shadows later, we're going to get them in with sharper brush stroke. Okay. Just some soft little shadows here. Pick up some purple, dry the brush, and simply drop in. Simply just drop it in. Okay. Preserving that yellow. So it takes a little bit of time to get your head around how to do this. You want it to go into the yellow just a little. That's about it. Okay, so I think those buildings are pretty much all right. Pretty much all right for now. Okay. Now comes the fun bit. Fun bit, as in the background built trees and stuff like that. Love doing the more sort of abstracty sort of shapes and have you. But notice this sort of touch and go thing that I'm doing, yeah? Touch and go. Um, every brush stroke that you put in there has to have a purpose. Okay, so don't just add something in there and think that it will work out. You have to really think before you add some color in there, especially the darks. You're playing around with these lighter colors as well. They can certainly certainly drown them out if you're not careful. So there's loose painting and there's chaos. So believe me, I've done a lot of chaotic looking paintings. Okay, and that's a little bit of a white contrast there as well. I'm going to just work on some of the top sections here. Okay, and I've got a larger mop brush. Oops, this one's just dry as anything. And then I just wet that down a little bit. Okay, some water on my laptop. Wet this down a little, not the whole lot, just a bit here, maybe. I'm going to use this to cut around the buildings now. Okay. Colors. I've got a color called 𝗣𝗧𝗥𝗢𝗡, which is kind of a rock, really browny, interesting sort of color. Sorry. And I'm going to go ahead and use this. Adam here as well. Hey, Adam from Sydney. One of my friends traveling to Sydney. You're coming back. Looks like, is that the 𝗣𝗓𝗡 Mountains? No, this is somewhere in what am I saying? Bhutan. Somewhere in Bhutan. So yeah, I thought it was a pretty cool reference photo. But it does remind me a bit of those like Chinese landscapes. That's why I wanted to try it out. Okay. So what I've done here is obviously just I've pre-wet that area a little, and I've started to put in some color, and I'm going to continue just dropping in some more of these sort of browns running through. Yeah, some brown colors, perhaps a bit of ultramarine works well. Ultramarine plus raw umber works really well. I have run out of raw umber, burnt umber actually. Or have I? Maybe I can grab some. I think I'm in luck. I do have some, have a little bit of burnt umber. I think this is going to be better. Achieve some of those darks in there. I just can't get that geothite color to goethite color to go dark enough. Okay. One thing you do find with the earth tones as well, they tend to granulate out, which is great. This type of scene. We got all these kind of brown bits in here, and the trick is just to drop them in. Okay. And we'll change it up again. How about some ultramarine? Ultramarine and burnt umber make a really beautiful dark color. Okay. Because we do have all these darks in the mountains. You put sort of these downward striations like this, run down, like that. And I want to create more contrast in the mountains as well around the buildings, perhaps using a smaller little brush, one that I had before. Swap that around. Let's try. And by this time, that yellow should almost be dried. Okay. So you can just start dropping in some color, cut around. Right. This, soften down again. Yeah. Careful not to get rid of all that lovely golden color. So tricky, it really is. It's oops, much brown. What happens when you're playing with wet paint rather than the palette, the dried up stuff on your palette? So easy to go overboard. Drop in that dark paint and look how quickly it dissipates in there. That was the darker stuff I had before. Okay. And this is the wet and wet work, by the way. We're going to go in and do some more sharper strokes running through. But yeah, the main colors I'm using is some ultramarine and burnt umber. The way that I also indicate the buildings is if you look quite closely, you'll see that there is a little white outline on the buildings. Just these little white bits in there, which helps to indicate edges. Unfortunately here I've lost a bit of the top. Tissue. Just dab off a bit of that, like that. Darken more blue. Yeah. A bit more cutting around. Rest my hand a bit on the well so that I can detail. I'm going to soften a bit as well. Tissues help also to create a little texture, softness. I like that geothight. I'm going to use some more of that. It's not as dark, but it granulates out to this amazing color. Textured effects are perfect. We're done here. Not that. Cutting around the buildings. We're doing a little negative painting. Cut around. It's awfully dark here on that left side as well. Darkness here. Got a nice little brush like this. It really helps to cut around. I try to use like the largest brush that I can get in these details. Dance around the page. Yeah. Okay. It's looking all right. I'm going to continue down. And I do have some green here. It's actually undersea green, which I'll mix with a bit of yellow. Start putting in some of these lighter sort of trees. And remember, this is this tree here on that right side is like a larger one as well. Cuts over the top of other side of the mountain. There, there, there. More yellow, more of this green here. Remember, this is like the lightest part of your painting as well. All these trees here. I want to preserve the colors. Normally I'd use some sap green actually in here. And I'm going to try to, I'm going to aim for more of a muted down color. And the great thing also about this undersea green is that it granulates out. I already see it starting to do its magic. There, bit of neutral tint, some of this area. Oh, courtyard. A bit earlier, but hey, let's try. I always do my best to try to come up with some wet and wet mixing around. I think that always looks quite amazing. Try to get these details in wet into wet possible. That's part of the mountain. If trying to one that sort of sticks out the side there. It actually moves through these buildings very slightly. Moves through this section here. Soften. Yeah. Yeah. Bluish color here. Ultramarine. Yeah. Okay. Good. Let's continue further down. Some of that, more of that in here, especially here in the background. Which again, I've just now reminded that I've not done some of this background stuff. Let's go ahead and try that. Have a look at that reference photo again. Cerulean blue. Cerulean blue. Go with that. Ooh, good. Had a bit of that previous paint mixed in there, and it's just not blue enough. So something like this. It's definitely quite saturated, this blue. too saturated. Don't want it to look too pretty. That soften this edge down in the corner. The spray bottle. Get that spray bottle if you've got something there that will help you in times like this. Got perhaps a sharp edge and you want to soften it a little. I'm gonna let that. There's something funny about this cerulean blue that I bought. I don't know what it is, but check that out. It's just all. It's kind of powdery. I feel like they just haven't mixed it enough. Well, you know what? The good thing is that it probably will granulate out nicely. So let's go with that. Moving down, it becomes more of like a darker blue, which I'll mix in some of this cerulean, not cerulean, ultramarine. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Go. Put around this one. Yeah. The little bits of white make a difference. Yeah. There's tiny bits of white that I've left on the paper. I'm going to create these highlights, beautiful highlights. I will get it to mix slightly. Yeah. I don't want it too dark though. That's the trick. Not create too much darkness back there. Just want it to be nice and soft. In fact, why not mix a bit of green? Just a tiny bit of green in there as well. Perhaps more of a turquoisey color. That down. This then mixes with some of the green below. Flick in a bit of water. That there. Drop in some water. Help it maybe granulate a little. Okay, there, further down. More green and stuff. There. Brown and some more green in here. Remember the area of the background is actually it's actually lighter there, so we have to take care. Move some of this 𝗣𝗧𝗥𝗢𝗢 downwards. Okay. And having a look at that reference as well, I want to make sure that I've preserved enough of those light colored bits, a bit of yellow and a bit of undersea green that I'm mixing together. I'm going to just try to indicate some of these little shrubs and stuff growing on the mountain. So you turn the brush to the side like that, and then you can do this type of thing like that. Yeah. There. Bit here. And find some areas I want to do that on. And this is what I was talking about, these amazing striations. Rock. Yeah. Keeping also some of the light perhaps here. Finding out, just finding some areas where you can draw out the light. I know this area is darker in here, so I'm going to need to darken this up a bit. Okay. There. Down here. Base. More green. Yeah. Perhaps some more of that 𝗣𝗧𝗥𝗢𝗢𝗡 color. 𝗣𝗧𝗥𝗢𝗢𝗡. Yeah. That downward striations. That. Like a bit of water up here. I don't like doing this all too much because it causes a mess at times with your with my desk to clean up. But it looks good if you do it right. Okay. It may be a bit early, but I actually want to start doing some of the shadows and things on the building. And I want to simplify this down as well. I'm going to use some purple, perhaps mixed in with some neutral tint. And again, yeah, let me know if you have questions, or I'll also give me an update if you're following along okay, if making sense for you. Cindy says, stunning work, Darren. Thank you, Cindy. It's coming together. It's slowly coming together. Notice how I've worked a lot of this wet into wet. Well, and so you're going to have a lot of soft details, but these buildings are going to have to be the kind of relief. It's going to have like the sharpness and the contrast. I'm hoping this to be the focal point. If we get these shadows in right. This is dried. Always check before you do sharp shadows whether that area is dried or not, because you can cause an awful mess if you start putting some color in there and it just spreads all over the place. Check on YouTube. I think everyone's pretty much up to date. Now, some this shadow stuff. Purple, purple with neutral tint, maybe with some of that brown in there as well. I don't want it to be like a really vibrant shadow, just a dark shadow with some maybe some purple undertones in there. This number 6 round brush may actually be best. Get in some of these details. We've got decisions, a lot of decisions to make. Start here. Just darken down the side of this one a bit. Okay, leave the roof. Super important to leave there. It's also, the building is still lighter than the background, so we have to be careful we're not darkening it too much. That I'm going to get a shadow that just cuts across like this. Let's just try that. With shadow. Okay, good. Somewhere here as well behind. Just a grayish color, really. Yeah, darkness on the top as well. Perhaps here. Okay. Some darkness here in the base of that building. Behind, it's actually darker. Dark. Some of these back regions. Again, I'm going to exaggerate this shadow. Should I even have a shadow there? That's the thing. Try this. Okay. The softer one. Good, good, good. Just trying to preserve some of those golden bits and pieces in there as well, guys. So really important to keep that gold in there. What else do we have? More of that neutral tint. Side of this building as well. Shadow. Building. I like the division of that building. Top division. That. Soften that at the base. How about this building here? We'll do this side first. This is easy. Bit of darkness in here. I'm just gonna also, while I can, just respray this bottom bit so that it doesn't dry off completely. I've still got a bit of stuff to come back to. Okay. Add a bit of white in there so that it just turns more of a grayish color. Little shadow there as well. Alrighty. Looking all right. We're getting there. Certainly getting there. Do with this building. Leave that or get a shadow running across the wall. Work on this one. Base of this one. Just darken up. Extra darkness and neutral tint. Side of darkened. Down there. There. More grey perhaps in there. Something about this side of the building that I'm not 100% decided on whether I want to just copy that same shadow pattern consistency. Perhaps the sun's just hitting that building on that right angle. I'm going to decide that for later with no need to rush. I do want to get in a bit of a shadow for some of the roof areas. So yeah, just mixing up a bit of this neutral tint. Here's my, I've got a funny little angled flat brush here. Nice to put that in. Just go for a bit running across. The beauty of it is that it all blends together nicely. Do all the shadows kind of at one time. More in there, a little bit more darkness in here. Soften the edge a little, that shadow. Good. You know, it's also a good time if you do feel like you're game enough to start putting in some of the details of the buildings, grab a little round brush, dry it off a bit, and start putting in some bits like this, indications, details. This building here, left, you might bits like this. There, yeah, underneath the rooftops. Does help to put in some extra darkness, and that will draw out the yeah, just the shadows, this impression of shadows underneath the roof areas. Trying to do a lot of this wet into wet as well. It's not possible for all of it, but some of it. Okay, there, yeah, yeah. There's even on top of the roof here, a lot of shadows. Drop that in like that. Almost like your full tones back here. Oops, too much. There, darkness in there. Yeah, of course. Windows or something down the base. Little windows here as well. Drop some in. Dry brush. Indicate some texture. Bit of the cliff. Through there as well. Okay, I'll probably come back to that more later, but I think that's a pretty good start for now. Yeah, in terms of detailing and just having some bits and pieces in here. Wet and wet, bits of wet and wet. Not Certainly not a huge amount of stuff going on in there, but I'd like to work on different parts of the painting, get a bit bored working on one, and then it also helps you to not overwork another section if you just sort of work on bits, stop on a bit, and then continue on another. I had not decided on that side of the building, that shadow, but I'm just going to go for it, guys. I'm just too curious to see what it looks like if I put in a bit of that shadow there. And it doesn't make a gigantic difference. So, but it does, however, look like the shadow pattern is more consistent across different buildings. Okay. A bit more darkness as well in here. Hopefully connect it up a bit. Let me know how you think, guys. If it's looking all right, or anything you think. Another thing I want to do probably at the end is top of the buildings. I will draw out some more of the little details, the little spires and stuff. So just hang around till the end, and I'll show you how to do that with some gouache. I want to focus really on the shadows of this. It's so important, getting them all in wet into wet in this same mix. Spray down this bottom as well. It's drying. It's just dried off. Got a bit distracted with the buildings. But the good thing is that when you have areas that are dry and you go back into it again, is that you're going to get some really beautiful layered effects in there. So it's a great thing to do. Bugging me a little. I want some more color, a little bit more strength in here. Match that shadow. running across that side of the building. Put a bit of water in here as well to get some just some little blooms. That sounds nuts, but a few little blooms in here to make it more interesting. Yeah, under there. I've forgotten this bit as well. So much detail. A reference photo that's a lot more difficult than I thought that it would be. Deceivingly so. You never know sometimes with references. Did a little portrait the other day of a person wearing glasses and thought it looked pretty easy, but glasses. Okay. About fiddling around, trying to look all right. So I think hard to tell when you're painting. Hard to tell when you're there in the moment. I think it's starting to look like something come together bit by bit. Okay. Okay. Fiddling around too much. Some more this brown 𝗣𝗧𝗥𝗢𝗡. Maybe just drop some here. This is also like there's a lot of greens running through it as well. I'm just picking up some more of this undersea green and hopefully getting in a bit of this dark sharpness in here. Cut around some of the buildings. Sort of touch and shift off like that. Click it off, get to the side. Use that side of the brush. Remembering to preserve that light on there. Tricky, very tricky, but you have to do that. Especially here, you can see there's an edge, this edge of the cliff. And preserving that is super important. You also find that there is little trees that are growing out. Awesome. Here we go. So important to have a brush with a fine tip. Get in. Coming down again. More green, more of this burnt umber. Need some more of the burnt palette. Just having a look down here as well if there's something to that brush. Leaving some of the white on there as well. And notice, I'm just kind of cutting around the lighter sections of those trees that are in there. That's the way, sort of one way you can imply some light running through as well. Strokes like this, which will connect mountainous regions below. I want to mix up some of this gray color. creamy sort of grey color for the rocks. Yeah, there's a kind of color in. Use the large, not but I remember as well that this side of the cliff is coming forwards. That it's fairly dark actually. Neutral tint there. Yeah, I mean, there's actually some softer trees and stuff in the background. Just quickly hit, rough it up. More green, yellow, perhaps through here as well. Got the light preserved on that side. That's what I'm looking for. I'm gonna lose that. Good. Another thing that I've learnt is turning the page so you can sort of like lift it like this, right? And just spray it. Some more water, hopefully. Spray it, and that will create some of these downward effects of the that I want to achieve. These kind of like striations down. Gravity for you. I'll need some more water. Margaret says, Happy New Year, Darren. Love this work. Thank you. Thank you, Margaret. Happy New Year to you as well. Hope you're having a good one and that you're enjoying this little workshop as well. Let me look around if there's anything else. If you have questions. Oh, I've missed out a whole lot of comments on Facebook. Scroll down enough. Lucia says everything is going well. Obviously, it looks like a big mess. Most of it around the sort of abstracty bits here. Those are probably the messiest sort of bits. But we're going to try to draw out some details and things on it later. I think it's more sort of this section here that's tricky because you're cutting around the buildings and these are trying to make them look like buildings as well. And even for me at the moment, it kind of looks like something, but but there's still a lot more work that I need to put into it. But keep going. Darren says, I love the textual feeling of the mountainside. What a great reference photo. Yeah, it's amazing. The light and then just the amount of detail and the tones in there. It's quite incredible. Deborah says, sorry, I have to leave. Good job teaching. Until next time, Happy New Year. Thank you, Deborah, and catch you round. Darren says, love the buildings. They almost glow. Yeah, and that glowing effect, it comes from leaving in these golden bits in here. So it's one of those, you have to make sure that you're certainly just you're only just putting in as much as you need to get in those shadows. But then we got to go in and basically leave out those golden bits. Question from 𝗣𝗘𝗢𝗡𝗢, asking what type color. The colors I'm using at the moment are mainly Daniel Smith colors plus some Mugello colors as well. The Daniel Smith colors I like because all the ones I've picked out are all granulating ones. Schmink is pretty good as well. Kate Barbary says, love the subject. Reminds me of climbing Yellow Mountain, China. Wow, you've been traveling a lot, Kate. I've not been up to that area before. I did go to Beijing a really like many years ago, and I went to the Great Wall, and I didn't do much of it. Maybe like 5 or 6 posts or whatever. So um, yeah, I think this would be really amazing just seeing this in person. So thank you for sharing, Kate. Let me just check on YouTube. Don says, I think it's coming together nicely. She's done. It's getting there. It's getting there. There's still some more that we need to do. Um, so I'm just trying to have a look at that reference now and seeing, um, again, there's a lot of these downward striations coming through the mountains that I really want to get in here. And what I've found is using a flat brush can often make it a lot easier. Just this this layering effect, and then having kind of these lost and found edges as well. When you're working with paper it's almost like partially dry, partially wet, some bits and pieces. Okay. Another thing is we'll dry this off and also get in some sharper bits and pieces later on. Okay. Don't don't fret. We haven't got in all the sharper details just yet. Even in here, a bit of a shadow. It's kind of like the shadow cast by the wall. Yeah. I love wet and wet effects. It's just incredible. I might try to just get into a bit of this side of some of this. That can be like the bulk of it. Um, green there is kind of like the bulk of the tree, and then underneath got this darkness in here. Using neutral tint here as well. Here's my little spray. Careful not to spray the buildings too much. Some oh, just as I said that. We're getting there. We are slowly but surely getting there. Angle that page downwards a little bit. That. Encourage some of this color to run down. Okay. Now we've got some of these darker sections here. We've got some more darker sections here. As the paper dries, you'd be amazed at how this darkness just disappears. It's like as if he didn't paint it. So there's a mountain here that forms a negative shape. We certainly can see that there's a bit of light coming through here and forming this beautiful shape here. And a good way to blend as well is if you've got yourself one of these brushes, filbert brush, Google it, filbert brush, and it helps blend. So you can sort of just do a bit of this scumbling stuff, then it will blend these edges nicely together. Sections, okay, but already look at that. That's already starting to just disappear in there. So it's tricky to know exactly when to go in and know if it's going to stay or not. But the only way to really learn how to do wet and wet is practicing all the different times that you can go in and paint in that area. So you might try now, you might try again in a few minutes, and see where it goes. Okay. There's also some trees running up this section. Show you a little trick. Lift off some paint. So you've got a bit of got your flat your round brush. And for example, I might just start it's like this with a bit of water. Kind of just scrubbing at the paper, yeah. Bit of a scrub. Get another. Oh, here. Up like this. Just water. I'm just using pure water, and that area has dried already. And what's happening, as you can see, getting some shapes come through. Some lighter, what I hope to look indicate tree trunks running up through here. See, but it's what I'm trying to do. Now I need some more darks around some of the do something and then suddenly you realize you need to balance it. Okay, so that's a little thing that I hope will help. Just another technique in your repertoire. Use lifting out little bits of color. Works better when you've got granulating pigment. Trees seem to not really have too many offshoot branches. They kind of just run up that. Even do another one here going through the back of that building. This and actually touch in the paper and then lift like this as well. Another way you can do it. Just kind of do it the way I have. Get a bit of water, scrub, just let it go up. So the edge that it creates is not so harsh, kind of like a softer edge. And you skip the gouache, skip using the gouache. Suppose lift off a bit here, soften. Make sure I got this light showing through. Get some more back, some light back here as well. Coming through. Okay. This has all started to pull this color down the center. Paper starts to buckle. Put a lot of water in there. That's just what happens. Okay. Getting there. Almost done. In fact, if you're happy to stop at this point, it's already coming together. The last thing I'm going to do is give it a really quick dry, and I'm going to go over it with one more layer of just like really sharper shapes. So I'm going to just put the thing on pause, the audio on pause. Okay, it's all dried now. So finishing touches. So what I want to do is put in some of these golden sort of spires coming through the tops of the buildings, and also some sharper brush strokes running through here to finish it off. Little detailing. It's like the last 10% of the painting, and you can spend all day doing this. But that's the general gist. I think the shadows, the story I wanted to tell was just the light cutting across and the softness and the lush um, trees and bushes and things like that. So we're going to continue on, but I will check the chats just real quick. Sure that okay. A little bit slower today, guys. I didn't get too much sleep last night for some reason, so I'm like half awake. If you're enjoying it, if you're enjoying this video, please share it around as well. On yeah, if you have any friends that might be interested, or if you're part of any groups, um, much appreciated. I do have a Patreon as well. Check the description and check. Yeah, I've added a few links to the description that will help you navigate towards my courses. If you're interested in looking at a few more, I've got about 37 courses I've put together now. So make them gone nuts now that I've figured out how to record and edit videos. That's pretty much my life these days. There's something here. I'm not so happy with the way that this top of this turned out here. Just want to cut around and create more sharper shape top of this one. Okay. Um, Cutting around is so important, especially for these buildings. I'm going to do that before I put in the bits and pieces on top of it. Shadow here. That. Okay. Gouache, white gouache. Put a blob of it here. Piece some of that out onto the palette and grab yourself out a small round brush, and I'm going to mix in a little bit of golden color, yellow, the gouache. Just trying to see, just to match it to the color of the actual building, but it's going to be tricky. Try with this and see. Okay, looks okay. So gouache is just basically an opaque watercolor. Lets you get in some of the details here. So a little bit of that gouache and go in. Might go in with some more kind of a whiter a whiter gouache first, to get in perhaps some bits of the rooftop. So little dots, that a bit there. Here, there. Let's zoom in a little bit to this reference. What? Here, there's a. Oh, okay, it's interesting. Hmm. More yellow. Yeah. Yeah, here as well. much intricacy and much intricate buildings. Yeah, there's more on this. Yeah. Don't worry about using gouache. I know some people fussed about whether it should be used or not, but at the end of the day, it does the trick. Use it. But the thing is I'd say use it sparingly. Caveat, because you can overdo it, lose the beauty of the watercolors, transparent nature of it. You add too much gouache in here, and I always tend to add the gouache in kind of dry brushed. Certainly, the buildings are not perfect, far from perfect actually, but I think it's a good first attempt at this scene. When you zoom in, me anyway, when I zoom in, I start seeing bits and pieces that I could have done better, this and that. 1, 2, 3, good. Get the wrong thing now. Yeah, some more here, one bit there, yeah, yeah. It's wonky. This building's wonky. Set up, hugging me straight like that. Comes down. Tricky bit is then this shadow. Not look as good now. Soften that off and do it. Done it a bit. At least it kind of looks straighter now. And here there's a one going up. That's there. Any other golden bits and pieces I can put in here? Not here. Yeah. Yeah. There's cliff. A little gouache on that edge of that cliff. Again, to tell that story of the light. I might have lost some little light here, but you can just go in with that bit of that gouache and cover a bit of it. But again, just try to be careful here. Don't overdo it. Even here, you might find perhaps there's a tree or something here. Put all this darkness in there. Some lighter. Good. It also indicates the edge of this mountain. Yeah. I want to put some darkness in that side, like some darker trees up through here as well. Balance this thing right hand side a bit. Good. Okay. I might even find there's like some little indications on the buildings, like some little details on the buildings that you want to add in. So like frames or window stuff, you pour them in, wash, try to recover some bits in here. Right, and we're almost done. I'm going to do a few little quick downward strokes and things for mountains. Some brown, bit of neutral tint. Get it really dry. Just add in a little water so that it becomes liquid. Dry off that brush. I'm going to do here. Make the brush some part. Striations. So obsessed with thing. Let's try. And darker. All about balance. I think having balance of light and darks in here is very useful. This indicates some textures as well, using that side of the brush like this. And also keep some of this green there to make some, see, just these little shrubs growing on the side of the mountains, little trees. And I would have tried to preserve more of that green actually, but keep some of that in that. So you kind of you got this harshness and you got some relief, softness in there. Harshness and then relief, both elements. Big rock or something. Oh, I've forgotten this top stuff. Side of the brush. Careful with this, you can stuff up your brush. Not stuff it up, but it just can be quite harsh on your brush. Have another. I think so. Continue just using that one. And have a little brush that kind of has a scrubbing brush that I use. It's like an old watercolor brush that's lost its point. It's good as well for this type of stuff. Bit of purplish paint coming through. Oops. Carbazole violet, dark, very, very dark purple. Carbazole violet. Just trying to get in cheap bits of it. Some areas. Striations. I don't know if I'm. That actually works so well. Actually, I'm gonna. Good idea. Bottom bit and put in a few more. Okay. Darks here. Trees here as well. Careful not to do it. Dangerous because we're gonna could overdo it. Here's some little stuff that I thought. Okay, so touch and go. Okay, I reckon I actually finish this one off, guys. I'll take off the paper first. You can take a look. Okay, so we are pretty much done. I will go through this probably later and see if I can tidy up a few bits and pieces. I can perhaps bring back a bit of light here as well. But I think this looks pretty good for what it is. Let me know what you think and also how you went for this session. I'm going to keep my eye out on the chats to see comments. Everything up. A few more comments in here. Kate Parbury is saying when to stop and pull away, when to stop and leave. Might be talking about when to stop with some of the light and darks. So I tend to, I guess I tend to look at areas where there's, okay, for example, here where there's a little bit of light, okay, I'll go in and just put in a few darker strokes next to that light. But then you see it starts turning dark. So it goes dark, light, then it goes dark again over here. So I want to leave a bit of that light. So I'll stop just before that. So leave a bit of that light and let the dark show through. So you're kind of looking to almost have all these different layers. You can see the different layers. You can see that first wash of that really lighter color running through, even with the greens and the softness of that wet and wet work. And then you've got, maybe some darker wet and wet work. So you want to show some of the soft, the light wet and wet work, the dark wet and wet work. And then we want to show some of these sharper edges and rock bits and pieces. And then we want to show those really dark sections as well. So that sort of creates a better looking better looking scene with all your variety of tones. Philip says, thanks, Darren. Another great workshop. All new to me. Enjoying the tips and tricks to make magic. Thank you, Philip. It's there's no easy way around it, and I try to I guess go through with you guys all the steps that I take, and I guess what's going on in my head when I'm painting. But a lot of this stuff really just requires continuous application, especially of the techniques, because I can tell you how to do the techniques, but um, telling doesn't do all that much unless you practice it out. That's the main thing. Just doing these workshops, coming along, and being able to I guess practice those techniques is going to help you to improve significantly. So thank you for coming along. I'm happy to hear that you've got something out of it, and worthwhile for you. And, there's so much. There's really so much that you can do in this scene, and I think we've pretty much covered almost. Geez, we've covered a lot. Wet and dry. Shadows, sharp and soft edges. Um, really a lot in here. For those of you who want to view some more of my courses and stuff like that, you can go on to patreon.com/watercolor mentor. I upload a whole bunch of videos and tutorials on their classes, especially which have a lot more, go into a lot more sort of detail in terms of the steps that I take, sort of walk you through a lot of the techniques as well in the classes that I make. So have like separate videos which I talk through how I do that. Um, so if you're interested, have a look on there. I've also got a website, watercolormentor.com. I've got articles, more tutorials that I've put together there as well, which will help you to improve your watercolors. And if you like the video, do share it around. I have a YouTube as well. Those of you who haven't watched, haven't been on my YouTube, just pop on there, have a look, and you'll get notifications, because I can't really notify anyone on Facebook if I update videos and stuff like that. For some reason, it just doesn't. Yeah, there's no opportunity for me to do that. So certainly, if you like my content, want to see some more, um, yeah, jump onto YouTube and be there as well. Having a look at the comments, YouTube. So Ellen says, "Fun project, great one to start the new year." Yeah, it's nice and relaxing subject, isn't it? Thank you, Ellen. Ellen's one of my patrons, and I do, if anyone has ideas, what they'd like to see for future videos, post them in the comments. Let me know. I do check them and actually write them down for the next time. Um, Especially any of my patrons out there, if you have ideas of what you want to do, or it's like a scene that you want to do, I'll definitely take a look at that and try my best to cover that in a future video. Don says, I hope to work on this one with you on the replays. Thanks, Don. Definitely give it a crack. This was very challenging. They're really quite challenging for me, and I haven't done a scene like this before. So yeah, it was interesting, and I think at the end of the day, like I just use the same techniques that I did for pretty much all the other videos that I've done. Paint this, just use those techniques, but in a different context. You'll find that's the case when you get more confident with your techniques. You'll be able to apply them to different situations. A lot of people, I find they don't practice their techniques enough. They wait until they've they've got a painting to do, then they start to execute that particular technique at that time. But it's really important to just have, you know, if you've got a bit of sketch paper or something, just to pull out a bit of paper and just start playing around with some wet and dry, some techniques like this that I'm doing. Just this little bits and pieces that I'm doing here, even, and you end up becoming a lot more confident with brush strokes and knowing how to execute some of these techniques. Um, so it's kind of like just like practicing, right? It's practicing before you nail, um, hammer in that nail, you kind of get that swing right. Then it becomes easier when you need to do it for real. Okay. Um, so thank you so much, all for coming along. Really appreciate you being here. I hope that you um, got some help out of this and it was useful for you. Uh, I will end this stream. I'm going to go grab some lunch. I will catch you all next time. If you have any other questions as well, certainly drop them in. Thank you, Derrida. Derrida says my favorite so far. Thanks for sharing your time and it. Appreciate you being here. And Wanapa also says thank you very much, Darren. I have to practice much more. Yeah, it's amazing how much you can improve by doing a sketch every day. This is like a full painting, but I'm talking about a little sketch, something like this. Yeah, big, you know, maybe of some mountains or some subjects, different subjects each time, each day, and being consistent, even if you don't feel like painting. That's the hardest thing I find. You treat it as something that you're trying to learn. It's not always going to be uh, I think getting started, like, you know, starting painting is always something that's tricky because you've got to get set up and make it easy for yourself to get set up. You've got a little place that you could store your paints and some of your materials and your or yeah, like a separate table or something. It makes it a lot easier for you to get motivated. But that's pretty much it. PJ, thank you for joining. So PJ is just saying, thank you much. Learning so much. Awesome. Um, yeah, and I'm happy to be here. And if there's any questions, if you guys have any questions or think of something afterwards, if you're watching this the replay, drop the question in there. And if I get a notification for it, sometimes I don't, I will double check. The Darren also says Facebook notifies me when your workshops come up. Okay, fantastic. I hope there's a way. I don't know if there's a way to kind of schedule a reminder or something like that, or whether it just comes up as I'm doing it. But whatever works for you is the most important thing. Okay, fantastic, guys. So thank you so much for joining. I'll catch you all next time.